Hey everybody, this is Tom, otherwise known as Scary Spikes, and welcome to another Star Citizen video. In today's video, we'll be taking a look at my top 5 picks for the best features in 3.14, currently in the PTU. Before we get started though, a very quick and special thank you to RustyHook84. He's been with us since almost the beginning and has been a Tier 3 channel member for well over 3 months. Rusty, thank you so much for all of your support and for continuing to help me do what I do. If you'd like to join us on stream, feel free to do so Wednesdays and Fridays at 8 PM Eastern over on Twitch and our amazing Discord community, the links for which can be found in the description below. Without further ado, let's get started with this video. Alright, so in no particular order, let's start off with number 5, and that is the HUD. The HUD has been completely revitalized here, and I really love the way it looks. Honestly, the HUD is super clean now, and it gives you all the information that you need, none of the information that you don't, and it's really super useful and helpful while staying out of your way and letting you see everything outside the window and the main viewport here just fine. Let's go ahead and start at the top as we work our way through all the symbology, and I'll try to explain to you what everything means. If you have any questions, of course, make sure to leave your questions and comments in the comments section. Let's go ahead and get started at the very top here, where we see a series of 3 symbols followed by a bar for each. These symbolize the different types of signatures that your ship can emit, starting with IR. Over here on the left hand side, you can see this little heat wave icon, and that's the bar. Then we have the EM, signified by this little lightning bolt here, and again, its own bar. And finally, the cross section right in the middle, with these 2 chevrons and a diamond in the middle, and its own little bar here. So the smaller this bar is, the lower your signature is in each of these given categories, and of course, the lower your signature, the better. It will give missiles a harder time to track, and of course, will make you also a lot more difficult to detect at range. So keeping these lower is obviously good, but of course some ships are not designed to be stealth, like this big fatty Freelancer Miz that we're currently flying in, and so you can't expect that you're going to have too low of a signature in a ship like that unless you really work on trying to get nothing but stealth components inside, and of course also flying it around for a good amount of time will help to reduce your IR signature just a little bit, as well as your EM. With that being said, let's go ahead and move down below. We can see here that we have this horizontal tape with different numbers on it, and as we're turning in space currently, we are changing. You see that we're going from 330, moving towards 335, and the numbers grow as they move to the right and shrink as they go to the left, and of course the maximum here is 360. If you've not played other games in which you fly planes, you might not be too familiar with this, but this is basically a heading tape or heading indicator. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, why in the world would we need something like this in a space sim? That's a very good question, and the answer is that it still helps you to orient yourself on a 2D plane, so a 2-dimensional plane like the map that we see here. So it's not necessarily going to show you whether you're going up, down, but it is going to show you whether you're going this direction, or really any direction on the horizontal plane. So basically, if you're heading from Microtech over to Crusader, or Crusader to ArcCorp, those will all have their headings from one to another, and that might be a good way to help organize or maybe get your bearings when you're flying around in unfamiliar territory. So maybe not as useful as some of the other symbology here, but still definitely very useful, especially if you put it to good use. We'll go ahead and actually turn the ship around and see if we can fly slowly towards orbit here. And we'll go ahead and enable our auto flight here and move our maximum speed here, a speed limiter all the way to the top. And then that way we can also talk about basically the speed limiter and the features on the left-hand side of the HUD. So on the left-hand side here, we'll start at the very bottom. Now this is very curious because the Freelancer Miz does not have a VTOL function, but I'm assuming this is basically just a universal catch-all to be able to catch the ones that do have VTOL and just basically be a useless thing on the HUD for you if you're in a ship that doesn't have VTOL. So in this case, we are in a Freelancer Miz. The Freelancer Miz does not have VTOL capabilities like its cousin, the Freelancer, but in any case, it's still there. And the default keybind that existed in 313 is still the same, being K. You can still modify it and it'll still blink on and blink off. But of course, in this particular ship, it doesn't do anything. It will tell you whether your VTOL is on or off, though, in a VTOL ship, which is very, very helpful. Moving forward there, we can see that we have a indicator for decoupled mode, meaning that if decoupled mode, or coupled mode rather, is on, then this will be illuminated. If it is off, it will be basically blank, just like the gear icon here, showing you that you are decoupled. And more information on that maybe in a different video, but if you have questions, again, make sure to leave those in the comments. Next is your ESP mode, so this is going to be on. Again, I don't know why this is a thing for the pilot. It might be a thing maybe for a gunner when they're switching between ESP and like relative modes in a gunner seat for a turret, but again, doesn't seem to have too much functionality. If there's something that you know that I don't, definitely share that in the comments, but as far as I know, for the pilot at least, this doesn't really have too much functionality at the moment. And then finally, we're looking at the gear icon. Of course, our gear is up, and so as a result, going to have this not illuminated. When the gear is down, this will be illuminated. All right, let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit here. Now we can see that we have another thing here. This is very interesting. So we're currently moving pretty much at 0, so we're not moving at all. And this is why the throttle or the thrust here is showing 0. Okay, now if we start to move, or for example, if we enable auto thrust, you'll notice here that the thrust indicated by this little chevron here is at 100%. That means that the acceleration of your engines is at 100%. Now, if we were to push the shift key here, we're going to get a few things. We're going to see how much boost we have, which is going to regenerate over time. And then also, it's going to show you basically how much more than 100% where the chevron is here we're using. So we're basically, looks like it's about 110 to 120% there. We're basically using max power with the afterburner there. We can go ahead and start the afterburner again. Of course, this is going to be using our boost. I imagine that by the time we get down to the very bottom here, we won't have any boost left. This is actually really cool. We have a full burn here entering the atmosphere of Hurston. I was actually kind of wondering what all those flames were, but that's really cool. Also some new animations looks like on the thrusters, but I digress. Let's go ahead and look back at the tape here. So you can see that we are using up our boost, and I imagine that by the time this boost is done, then we're not going to be able to boost until, again, it regenerates all the way. Now, because we're moving at maximum speed, even when we're using the boost, or we're using the afterburner, it does consume the boost, but we're not really getting any benefit from it because, as you can see here, we are already at max speed. We're basically traveling as fast as we possibly can, but we are slowing down a little bit as a result of entering the atmosphere here at Hurston. But this is going to give you basically an indication of how much of your thrust is being used, the maximum here being at the chevron. Anything above that is going to be your boost. Once you're engaging your boost, you're going to see how much boost you have here, and it will regenerate, as you can see it's doing there, over time. As you get into the red, of course, this is just to notify you that you are running out of boost and to be a little bit careful about your usage so that you don't run out. That being said, we're going to have a look at the velocity tape here. It's actually pretty straightforward, and we're going to slow down here a little bit because we're getting pretty fast. So as we slow down here, you can see that this chevron is starting to move down. So what this chevron on the velocity tape indicates is our current speed. So this is going to be our max SCM speed here, where we have a transition from the blue to the red. And then, as you can see, the chevron actually changes color as well, which is really quite nice. Okay. So now we are in SCM speed. Anything above that is going to be, the total or maximum speed of the ship. Just so you know that, of course, your ship will maneuver and its characteristics will perform better in SCM speed, meaning if you are under the red. Anything above that, and you're not going to be as efficient. Your thrusters will not be as efficient, and you will not be as easy to control. Your ship will not be as easy to control in max speed as it will be in SCM. In any case, you've got your tape here, which moves up and down. You have your actual speed, which shows up here in the middle inside of this box. This simply just tells you that this is your velocity tape. And then we've already gone over the chevron. Then you're probably wondering what this box is. This box actually is going to move down if we decrease our maximum speed or speed limiter with our mouse wheel, and it'll increase if we go up. Okay, so very, very simple. Again, just your speed over here going up and down of the tape here, so that it gives you an idea of how fast you're going. You've got your actual speed here, your SCM speed is in the blue, your max speed is in the red. This is just telling you that this is your velocity tape. The chevron is indicative of your current speed based on no speed up to the maximum speed indicated by the full bar, and then your speed limiter is indicated by the square. All right, moving on, we have these little notches here. Let's go ahead and see if we can straighten out here. Again, if you've flown other types of maybe planes in different types of games, you'll notice that this is very, very similar looking. So if we actually turn around, we're currently in the negatives. There we go. We can see here that we have sort of like a little attitude tape. So this is going to show us what our attitude is currently. And of course, if we go right here, we can see that our attitude is right at 0. So if we continue to fly like at the 0 line over here, we will neither lose nor gain altitude. If we start to go into the minus, this is also in number of degrees. So this is -5 degrees, -10 degrees, and so on. And then the same is true, of course, in the opposite direction going up for plus. So this is telling us, plus 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, and so on degrees. And so that will also be indicative of your gain or loss of altitude, depending on how much you are pitched up or how much you are pitched down. Again, this is not something that is going to be super useful in space, but when you're in high atmosphere or low atmosphere, it's definitely going to help you get an idea of how much you are pitched up or down, so that you can better control your velocity and, most importantly, your altitude. All right, and the only thing that I wish that they actually introduced was, because there is this big sort of cross in the middle, as well as the velocity vector when you start moving. I do wish that they actually had a line going across so that you can actually more accurately line it up, but for now, this will definitely suffice, and we can go ahead and move over to the right side of the screen. So on the right side of the screen here, we have the Alt M, so this is basically our altitude meter here, and this will be showing altitude, presumably in feet, I imagine, but possibly in meters. I actually imagine it would be in meters, considering where the game is from. But I'm sure this is something that you could probably change in the settings in the future if you can't do so already. But having a look at down here, this is very curious. So they've actually also included a G meter, which is really, really cool. I assume these are the tolerances that you would be able to stay safely within as long as you're in atmosphere. And then, of course, your G limit is here. So if you start pulling Gs, especially in atmosphere, this is going to show you. And I imagine that this is designed to help you to avoid extreme G loads so as not to red out or blackout. All right, so if we look at the actual altitude tape here, again, very similar to the tape on the left-hand side for our airspeed or our speed in general. We have this tape here that will move up and down. You can see currently we are at 15,028 meters. So this is pretty self-explanatory, pretty simple. And we're going to move over to the right-hand side here, and this is really interesting. This is our weapon setup, and you'll see that if we actually start shooting our weapons, there's a new mechanic now with lasers, where lasers actually have temporary ammunition that does recharge over time. But this basically means that instead of just arbitrarily overheating your weapons, you're actually going to run out of ammo, and you'll have to wait for that ammo to be replenished before you can start shooting again. And this actually totally makes sense. Having, your weapons just arbitrarily overheat, it's kind of hard to follow with different types of weapons. They all had different amounts of overheat that you could use on them. But I'm sure that this is actually going to make things a little bit more copacetic and easy to understand. So we've got 34 ammo for each of our M5A cannons here. These are the default cannons that are installed on the Freelancer Miz. And of course, we can shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot. And then, of course, when we stop shooting, we can see that we have a little animation here for each of our weapons initially that shows us that the ammunition is being reloaded. And once the ammunition continues to reload, you can basically start firing, as long as you have ammo. But sometimes it might be better to wait until you have more ammo if you're looking to have a longer burst. That being said, if we switch over to missile operator mode, more on that in just a little bit, you'll notice that we have missiles here, and then you're able to switch between different missile types that you have here. Again, more on that in just a little bit. But let's go ahead and switch back to our weapons. There we go. And if we look down here, we have some additional information with respect to weapons. Let's go ahead and stop moving our ship because that's getting confusing. All right, so we have hydrogen and quantum. These are the fuel bars. So this is going to show you your fuel level of your hydrogen fuel. This is the fuel that you use for your basically interplanetary flight, or in planet or in atmosphere flight, excuse me. And so this is what's going to be used by your maneuvering thrusters and your main thrusters when you're flying mostly in atmosphere. Also, it is used in space, but not quite as much because, of course, in space, there's a lot less resistance. The quantum fuel, as you can imagine, is used by your quantum drive. This is only used up when you're in quantum travel. Long distances basically between points of interest on the galactic map there. And again, only being used when you are in quantum travel. Okay. So finally, we have these three little things down here. You have this little thing that says auto, and it has three little pips at the top. And of course, you have your decoy and your noise. This is basically going to be your chaff and your flare. I have no idea. Sorry, your chaff on this side, your flare on this side. I'm really not sure why they changed the name of this. It doesn't make sense to me at all. It's just like, if it's good, don't fix it. And I still call it chaff and flare because literally they're supposed to do exactly the same thing as what they do in the real life, which is, you know, the chaff is supposed to help to, or the noise in this case, help to confuse EM missiles, and the decoys, or I guess you could call them flares, are supposed to help confuse IR guided missiles. So, but in any case, it tells you how many you have here. And then this auto mode, if you'll notice, while we press G, which is still the default keybind, we're changing our fire modes here. Basically, it's going to actually change the different types of aiming modes with our weapons. So this is how we can switch between non-gimbaled and gimbaled modes. The same way as we were able to switch between all those modes in 3.13, just now you have a nice sort of a lot more of a tangible, sort of easy to see mode indicator here that'll show you what mode you're in, which is really quite nice. So that's gonna wrap it up. I hope you guys enjoyed this view of the UI here. Let me know what your favorite parts of it are, if you enjoy it at all. And of course, we'll make sure to go ahead and jump in now to my next favorite feature in 3.14. All right, and here's one of my most favorite features. Honestly, this should be at number 1, but there's so much other cool stuff coming in 3.14. So we've got a target here. This is going to be an RSI Aurora LN. So not particularly a fearsome target, so this is why we can take a little bit of time to explain how everything works. Plus, he's still a few kilometers out from us, so we're at a pretty safe distance. So in order to enter missile operator mode, what you're going to have to do as a pilot is press the middle mouse button. And once you've done that, you'll see that we have our Arrestor 3 missiles here. This is, of course, the Freelancer Miz. If you press the right mouse button, it will cycle through all of the missiles that you have. So we don't have any more of the Arrestors. So we're going to go ahead and switch over to the Thunderbolt 3s, and those are my favorite, but in any case, I digress. What you can do as well is you can actually set a number of missiles that you want to launch with the G key. Now, because you're not using the G key anymore to change the fire mode or the lock mode on your main weapons, because of course we are not able to fire our weapons anymore since we are not in weapon mode. In missile operator mode, you cannot fire the weapons, you can only fire the missiles. So the G key is actually going to queue up a number of missiles that you can fire all at once you've gotten a target lock. The important thing to note here is that you have to have enough launchers to queue these up. If you only have one launcher or two launchers, for example, you'll only be able to queue up one missile in each launcher. And unfortunately, even though it's still technically possible, the different types of missiles in the same launcher is going to be phased out over time. So you'll need to make sure that you have the right missiles in the launcher that you want to use. And then again, you can queue a number of missiles equal to the number of launchers you have, each firing one missile, of course, with the G key. So we have 4 of them queued up here and ready to go. And we're going to move forward here and see if we can reacquire that Aurora LN that's being a little bit sneaky here, hiding behind that rock. So let's see if we can push the speed up a little bit and see if we can catch him. All right, so there he is, and he's going to be within our range pretty soon. I don't know if they've changed the range too much on these missiles. Let's go ahead and press T, and we have this incredibly awesome and super satisfying and super smooth lock animation here. And now notice that I didn't have to press missile lock separately. As long as my missiles were ready to go, we can press the left mouse button, and it is going to fire our missiles. And that's it. The target's destroyed. Pretty awesome. This is also, of course, in conjunction with the new missile rework and everything that's been improved with the missiles. The way that they handle and track and feel, honestly, including the targeting, is incredibly satisfying and one of my favorite things to do. Now, I thought at first that I would be really upset not being able to use my guns and the missiles at the same time, but to be honest, as you guys already know, multitasking is my nemesis, and you know what? It's actually not that bad, and it also invites, a little bit of cooperation, so you can have someone sitting right there beside you, handling all your missiles for you while you're handling the guns, and honestly, I think that actually works a lot better, and having, a little bit more sort of, cooperative play between yourself and your friends is definitely really appreciated. So honestly, I am absolutely stoked with this. It is a very awesome feature, and let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. By the way, you can kind of dumbfire them now, which is just awesome. But without further ado, let's go ahead and move on to my next favorite feature of 3.14. Alright, so this next pick is going to be a little controversial for some people, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about it anyway, even if I don't happen to own one, as you can probably guess just by looking at these screenshots. Of course, I'm talking about the RSI Constellation Taurus. It's been a long time coming, and I'm honestly really glad that we have this ship here. Although I am a little upset with CIG that they don't really take trading more seriously. There's a lot of people out there, a lot of people like me, that are space truckers, and at their heart and soul love space trucking. We can't really do that right now, but despite that fact, the Taurus still fills a really important niche by being able to carry 2 Ursa rovers or different types of vehicles in its hull, and of course also being able to carry up to 180 SCU. I should be right about that, please let me know if I'm not in the comments, because it really fills a nice niche between ships like the Freelancer Max and the MSR, being able to carry about 120 and 114 SC respectively, up to something bigger like a Caterpillar or a Carrack that can carry about 576 or 456 respectively. It just fills a nice role right in the middle. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't come with the same snub fighter for obvious reasons, because you do have sort of a protected cargo hold in the back where the snub fighter used to be. But I mean, all the power to it. That is a great idea, and I'm honestly really happy that it's here and that RSI's line is now finally complete. Let me know what you think about it, but in my opinion, even though I don't own one, and probably am not going to purchase one because I own a Carrack and an M2 Hercules for that matter, but I still think it's a great ship, and it's one of the things that I'm really excited about in 3.14. The next thing that I want to talk about is something that might be pretty obvious, but honestly, we're not going to be spending too much time talking about it because what comes after it is really the meat and potatoes of it. But look at this. This is the new atmosphere in Crusader, and yes, our frame rate is definitely taking a hit. But how beautiful and gorgeous is this? This is the very first rendition of CIG's volumetric cloud tech V1, basically, that's been implemented for Orison and for the new reskin and rework of Crusader. But my god, how amazing is this, guys? Can you imagine different planets, not just in Stanton, but in other systems, having similar cloud technology? And what's interesting is there's going to be different varieties of clouds. It's not just going to be the same thing copied and pasted everywhere. The fact that this looks as amazing as it does, with the sun going down and all of the light refracting through the clouds and showing all the different colors, bouncing around and being sort of masked by some of the heavier clouds and coming through some of the lighter clouds, and I mean, it's just amazing. And I know that clouds are nothing really special, but honestly, in a game like Star Citizen, clouds are instrumental in giving us a feeling of depth and scale. And just this feeling that, you know, you're in a much bigger place than you are. And of course, Crusader being a gas giant, it is very fitting that we have these, you know, huge clouds all over the place. I mean, we have a big, deep, and immersive sort of atmosphere. And that is what we have. You know, when we talk about Orison a little bit later in this video, spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about how long it takes to get out of the atmosphere, because it definitely takes quite a bit longer, again, considering that we are in a gas giant. But this is just honestly breathtaking, and, you know, I've spent time in the last maybe few days in the PTU here just sitting above Orison and just in awe of how absolutely gorgeous and spectacular this first iteration of the cloud tech looks. And honestly, if it's to be iterated on like all of the other systems introduced by CIG in the future, I can't imagine how amazing it's going to look later on, and how much better the performance is going to be once we start getting into beta. I know that's a bit of a laughingstock at this point because none of us really know when the beta is coming. And that being said, I'm sure we're not too far away, probably maybe within a year or so, I hope. That being said, I think that once we start to get some implementations of maybe some levels of polish or bug fixing, once a lot of the base tech is in place, we're going to expect to have much better performance around here. In the meantime, this is still incredibly impressive, watching the sunset as we near Orison. And speaking of which, that is going to be my next favorite feature of 3.14, so let's go ahead and get down there and do a little exploring. And I've obviously saved the best for last here because Orison is my #1 pick for best new feature in 3.14. I mean, just look at it. We're here at the brand new spaceport, which looks absolutely stunning with the blue, white, and black accents here. And there's just so much attention to detail. Like, check out that space whale there. If you stand at just the right angle, you can actually see a space whale, but it's basically comprised of a bunch of different fins that are just hanging there. So this actually looks like something you would see at an airport or something along those lines. It's just really, really cool. There's a lot of different places here to explore and to see. There's obviously places to get food and drink, and of course other places to have a look at. There's also a hospital and a club and a bar over here. There's just way too much to show in this one video, but the one thing that I can tell you is that Orison is a feast for the eyes. It looks absolutely spectacular. The lighting and shadows here, the placement of all the ambience objects like the plants and, you know, those whale things up there. It's just absolutely amazing. It makes you feel lived in. Even this guy who's standing behind this desk that's not really doing anything, it's just filling in a space that otherwise would have been empty, and I really like that. Even though it's not really filling a role, it is still kind of filling a role in the sense that it's filling an empty space, and it's there for a reason. And hopefully a lot of this will be filled in, and not just in the new landing zone here at Orison, but of course other places around Stanton and other systems around Star Citizen's universe. But again, that's to come in the future. For now, Stanton is an amazing place to be, and Orison is honestly the crown jewel of Stanton at this point. I think it's honestly one of the most impressive, technically beautiful, yes, that is a thing, places to be. It's also got a lot of things to do. There's a place where you can rent ships, like the Traveler console here, very similar to that of what you can expect at different places like Area 18 and Lorville. It's also got these incredibly gorgeous panoramic views where you can take in the scenic, gorgeous stars here, and of course the sunset, which we flew in during, which was actually really quite nice and good timing. But it's just such a nicely done place. Honestly, even though there's not, you know, a full range of things to do here, there's still enough to keep you busy. And the way that everything is designed and put together, it's just bright and colorful and attractive and inviting, and it's just one of those places that you kind of just want to stay in and explore. So, I mean, look at these trees, for example. Like, this is just really, really awesome. I absolutely love it. So there's going to be a video, of course, in the future showing all the different areas around Orison. I mean, even these elevators, like, look at that. This is just gorgeous. And of course, we also have these brand new panels, which, if you don't know, I didn't actually mention when I was talking about the ship UIs, but there are also new improvements to the basically UI system here within the elevator panels, as well as different areas throughout, which definitely makes it feel a bit more lived in, a little bit more sort of modern. As we step through here, we have this big Crusader building here showing off the mighty C2 Herc. A little bit of history there as well, which is really quite nice. And there's also a number of different C2 and M2 and really Crusader themed areas here, since we are, of course, on Crusader. There is even a place where you can go to buy Crusader merch within the game. You can actually see Crusader ships being built. Now, this is where you wait for the shuttle to leave the spaceport, and I think this will be a really good place to end the video here. Of course, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, make sure to let me know in the comment section down below. Please also let me know what your favorite parts of 3.14 are and how much you're looking forward to diving in. Have you already dived into PTU? Is it something that you're enjoying, or do you think you're going to wait until the actual release in the alpha live service to be able to actually access it and play around with it. And this is just absolutely stunning. Now, of course, this is going to be a place where you are going to take quite a bit of a hit, so you may want to check out my performance guide if you haven't already, to make sure you squeeze the most performance out of your system, as well as Star Citizen, even though, of course, the game is not really fully optimized. But that being said, I'm going to leave the video here. Thank you so very much for making it all the way until the end. I really appreciate you watching, and I hope that you enjoyed my opinions on the best features of 3.14. Again, make sure to leave yours in the comments below. If you would like to see more videos like this and enjoy this and found it helpful, please make sure to leave a like, and of course also subscribe if you're new. Ring that bell so that you never miss a video in the future, as I publish videos once a week. Of course, you can also join us on stream Wednesdays and Fridays over on Twitch at 8 p.m. Eastern, and our amazing Discord community at the links in the description below. If you'd like to support me a little bit more directly and you're able to, I would be really grateful if you checked out sspgaming.com. That's where I make all of my own merch. I do everything myself and I make it with love. And every month there's new stuff that comes out. If you do want to go check it out, please make sure to sign up for the newsletter that comes out once every 1 to 2 months to get all the best deals and know about all the new products, but of course also to get your 10% off code for your very first purchase. So again, thank you so very much for watching. It means the world to me. I hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.